Hey everybody, how's it going? Sorry it's been a while since I've done a video, and I'm super pleased with the results. You guys have been watching the how to lead worship from electric guitar videos a ton, giving me great feedback on there, and a lot of you guys were asking about gear, specifically like pedals and what I'm using to get the tones that I get when I'm leading sort of from rhythm electric. So today I want to walk you guys through the pedal board and then show you how I use it. Alright, so here is my pedal board setup, guys. Really simple. This MIDI commander up here we don't need to worry about. All I have this for is to fire my tracks. It runs back to the laptop and fires tracks. All the rest of this stuff here is the actual pedals. So to start, I go into this tuner, just a Polytune. This is just that DC brick by MXR for power. It's not grounded. I wish it was, and I hope to get a Voodoo Lab someday. Out of the tuner, we go into this copy of a Klon. So it's a Klon clone. It's called the Silver Horse. This was about $20 on Amazon. I don't use it very often. It's probably the cheapest pedal on here. My main overdrive is this, which is the JHS Morning Glory, and it's kind of how I have the settings there. Volume just above noon, drive just above noon, and tone at like 3 o'clock. From there, I go into this Line 6 M5. This was an unwanted pedal that I ended up with. I'll tell you more about that later, but I ended up really loving it, so I use it for like a shimmery reverb setting. From there, I go into the Strymon Iridium, and this is actually my amp. So I don't use regular tube amp. My tube amp broke this past year, and I'm full-fledged into this IR simulation world. So this is a cab simulator, and that's an amp and IR cabinet simulator. So IR standing for impulse response, and what it does is it'll model a Fender, a Vox, and a Marshall in 3 different cabinets. I set it to the Vox setting, so the chime setting right there, and then cabinet C, which I believe is the vintage open back, and then level 3 o'clock, drive just above noon, EQs roughly down the middle with a little boost in the treble in the mids. And the room is like a room reverb, and I've got that at noon. From there, I go into the Boss DD500, which is an amazing delay pedal. I highly recommend it. Hundreds of presets that you can save. You can program the BPMs. So I go song by song and program them each week. Or every once in a while, if I'm feeling lazy, I'll use the convenient tap tempo. Yeah, that's it. And then that goes into the Reverb, which is my Strymon Flint mix just above noon. Color, which is the tone knob, basically stays pretty low. The K stays pretty high, so it doesn't get in the way. And then I have it on the 70s setting. I like the 80s setting better, but it makes a high-pitched noise that is, I think it's a power issue. So the other side of that is a tremolo, which I rarely ever use. And that is it. That's my whole entire pedal board in one glance. So that's it. It's a pretty simple setup, and really all you need if you're leading worship from electric guitar is a simple setup like that. And really you can strip all that back and just say one overdrive, maybe a tuner, an amp, a delay, and a reverb, and that's it. So we'll kind of start with just my basic clean tone. Alright, so this is everything off, and as I mentioned before, I don't use a real tube amp. I use the Strymon Iridium as my amp, and it's here in my chain after overdrive and reverb, and then before my wet effects. So we'll start with just dry, like nothing, direct box only signal. Sounds like dump. It's just a guitar plugged into the system. So when I turn the amp on, that is my bass clean tone. You know, if you're doing some of the formations that I've talked about in some of the other videos, you know, you can get that high pitch kind of. If you need to sort of fill the role in an acoustic in a particular section, you can do some just kind of. And the way I'm getting just that clean tone is I'm using the AC setting, or the Vox simulator on the Strymon Iridium. Drive a little bit just before, just past 12 o'clock. Level about 2 o'clock. And then EQ is basically even with a little extra treble and a little extra mids. It also has this room knob on here, which is cool, and I keep that at noon, and that's just basically a reverb, but it simulates sort of being in a room in a studio. Yeah, so that's the basic clean tone, but I rarely ever run just the clean tone without a reverb. So here's my main reverb, which is the Strymon Flint. This side is tremolo, this side is reverb, and so with the reverb on, this is what it sounds like. So nice little decay there. I keep the mix just above noon. I keep the color down, so that's basically your tone. Keep the tone down. I don't want a lot of like highs in my reverb, because if you crank up those highs, it can really like kind of get in the way and make everything sound weird. So I keep the tone down, and I keep a very long decay, and it's on the 70s setting. So you kind of get that. It's like a sort of doused, subdued reverb just sitting in the background. I like the tone of my guitar to still come through strong, but then the reverb just helps support it. It really works well in like a finger picking situation if you're coming down and it's quiet and you're just doing some chords and you're doing this kind of thing. You kind of get that pad effect sitting behind everything that you do. So that's it. That's the basic clean tone. Now we'll start adding some overdrive. And I've got 2 stages of overdrive here. I use this as my first stage. So the Morning Glory by JHS is my first stage of overdrive. And then I send more signal into that with this clone as a boost. So here's clean. And here's with the first gain stage with the Morning Glory. So that's just Morning Glory, amp, and reverb. As you can tell, that already sounds a lot more full. Sounds really good. If I kick in the next gain stage, so that's with the Morning Glory set. Volume just past noon, drive just past noon, and the tone at about 3 o'clock. Kick in the next gain stage, so here's just the Morning Glory. Here's the next stage. About as dirty as I get. The only thing that I do to make it dirtier is typically, for most of a song, I usually live in the middle position on my guitar, so both pickups are being used. It sounds like this. But then if I kick into like a really, really big section, like you just want to take that song to the next level, over the top, if it's a guitar solo or like a massive bridge or something like that, I will flip my pickup switcher down to just the bridge pickup. So here's just bridge and neck together, and kick in the bridge. That's for like those big, like, you know, like the solo in Jesus Is Better. That's just really for huge sections only. I try to keep it on reserve and not ever just overuse it. On that one, I keep the output at noon, treble just past noon, and the gain low. The gain back at 9 o'clock. I just keep it to where it really is, like by itself. It's not that overdriven when you boost it with the morning glory. That's when it really stands out. The last piece that's important is delay. So all of that, like as you can notice, you can do a lot with just an overdrive and a reverb and an amp. As long as it's a good reverb with plenty of decay, a nice sounding overdrive with plenty of a wide range of body to it, that's basically all you need for a lot of scenarios. But when you start adding in delay, you can make things sound a lot more interesting. So typically what I'll do is I'll keep my delay on almost all the time, and I use this Boss DD500. I usually program my BPMs, but for now we'll just tap. So let's say that's my BPM, around 72. And what I do is I keep the feedback around 50s and 60s, the effect level around 90, tone rolled back, and then modulation around noon. So the effect level seems like it's high for most people, but what'll happen is it'll get buried in the mix unless your effect level is up a decent amount. So like when I play a note, I want that delay to like come right back at me, but then not just keep doing it, and that's why the feedback is lower. So and right now it's on like a typical dotted eighth. So here's your tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. A dotted eighth gives you that like syncopated delay kind of running in the background. So just as an example, like if you look back at the chord formation videos, let's say we're doing the G, key of G, D formations would be up here, right? So that delay, like, it does a couple things. Number one, it makes it sound more interesting. But the other thing that it does is it lets me not have to play as much. So I can strum a big chord and then it just sustains itself, which sounds nice, but it also lets me engage more with people. It lets me lead more with my hands. It lets me like not just have to think about what I'm doing the entire time. And so, you know, I'll use that to my advantage. Like a lot of times in this past Sunday, actually, we did the song Build My Life, right? And so we were in the key of G. So, you know, let's say we're just finishing up the chorus. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. So when that verse comes in, I kind of do this number, just palm muting right there. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. top to that formation. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one you could ever see. And you know, all I'm playing is, I'm just kind of, you know, if you did it without any effects or anything. Then with the reverb, or with the delay. With reverb. It just fills out the sound, and it lets me, honestly, like sometimes if I'm doing a sustaining kind of droning thing in a verse, I'll just be like right here, no hand here, especially if you're in the key of G. You just hit that G string, and no matter what chord the band is playing, it's gonna fit, you know. You could just do that. The band's back here. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Doing is, you know, I wouldn't be playing those bass notes. I'd just be right here on the G string. Every breath we could ever breathe. Lets me lead with my hands, right? Lets me engage more with the congregation, because all I have to do is focus on what my right hand is doing. So yeah, that's kind of how I use delay to my advantage. The last thing I want to look at today is we'll look at this new pedal that I got. We don't have to worry about this MIDI pedal here. That just fires our tracks. It's easier for me to do it than for the drummer to have to worry about that. So we just go song by song with any loops that we run with that. But this pedal right here, the Line 6 M5, I bought this because it was Easter Sunday coming up, and I thought my delay was broken. I went to the local shop, guitar shop that we have here. They only had one pedal that had programmable delay in it, and I was like, okay, I'll take that. And it's actually a multi-effects pedal, so it has a bunch of stuff in it. And after Easter Sunday, I realized my delay pedal was working, so I tried to return the pedal that I bought, and they have a no return policy. So I'm stuck with this pedal, but what I did is I found a really cool kind of shimmery sound in it called Particle Verb, and I tweaked it a little bit. This is what it sounds like. So a lot of times I use it with clean tone. See, kind of hear it in the background with delay and reverb and everything on. It's like really cool. Saw the other video, it works really well with those blackbird formations. Just kind of let it sit. I'll use it a lot of times when we come back up and our pastor's praying after the sermon. Sometimes I'll roll the tone down on my guitar and maybe the volume down a little bit. Play that balance between the volume and tone. sometimes I'll even use it in bigger parts. I used it this Sunday again on Build My Life. I think the first chorus when it kicks in. Holy. It's that first chorus when it kicks in. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. I kept it on there in the verse. So that right there, that's with every pedal on, and that's what it sounds like, except for that second overdrive gain stage. I usually, if I'm going into that second stage, I'll definitely take the Shimmer stuff off because that just gets crazy. But that's it. Other than that, I used the tuner to mute, to unplug. I had a volume pedal and it broke, and I realized I don't need it. I have a volume knob on my guitar, and I do my swells with that. And yeah, that's it for my pedal board. And the guitar that I use is mainly this one. This is a 70s lawsuit guitar. So in the 70s, a bunch of factories in Japan were making guitars that were like the same specs as and looked a lot like Gibson's. And then Gibson ended up suing all these factories, putting them out of business, and then building their own guitars as in those factories as Gibson factories. And this was one of the guitars that came from that era. So yeah, this is actually not a Gibson. It says Gibson on the headstock because I redid the headstock. It used to say Vista or something like that. But I took this, I found it at a Guitar Center for like $150 and redid the wiring, put new pickups in, all new pots, components, new tuners, redid the headstock. All in all, like less than $500 into this guitar, and I love it. It's pretty much my main guitar. The biggest thing I would say is you can play and lead worship with any electric guitar that you have. It just comes more into the notes that you're playing and knowing what those notes are going to do through the pedals that you have. But I would say the big must three for leading in a rhythm scenario is have an overdrive pedal that sounds really good and can do plenty of high end, plenty of low end, has lots of clarity. So overdrive, a nice reverb pedal, and a nice delay pedal. So overdrive, reverb, delay. The order, typically, you want to throw your tuner and stuff and then your overdrives first. And then after that, if you can put your amp after your overdrive signals, that works well because you're sending the toned amp signal to your delay and reverb, so your wet effects. You're sending them to those, and it's repeating and echoing that tone already, instead of sending a dry signal through the reverb and delay and then sending that into the amp, because sometimes the delay can overload the amp, and a lot of people like that. I made the switch this year to run my wet effects, delay, and reverb after my amp, and I like that a lot. I usually do delay before reverb, and reverb just kind of is the glue that holds everything together at the end. So overdrive, delay, reverb, and of course a decent amp and a guitar, and that should be all you need. If you guys have any questions about the gear, drop them in the comments, let me know. And if you have any questions in general about other things with electric, leading, any of that stuff, drop those in the comments. Let me know what you'd like to see coming up. I've got some more videos. Got a couple keys videos coming up on crafting synth tones, so if you're in the keys world, pay attention for that. And then probably a couple more practical, like leading worship electric guitar videos as well. So thank you guys. If you guys are enjoying this content, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 600, so it'd be cool if we could surpass that and then keep on going. Thank you guys for paying attention, and we'll see you next time.